Can't complain.
We had some good content yesterday, man.
Oh, yeah, we did.
I got a lot of good response. You know, they said that y'all tried to stick Zoe on me. Hey, your cousins, Bishop, they must be so happy, man. They can't wait.
What was that?
At Prairie View.
What you mean?
Hey, you know they gonna be like, oh man, we win the swag.
Oh man, look, they excited, man. Coach Jackson giving some great time about too what they're doing on social media.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna talk to Coach Shade about a little bit.
All right, we're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your co-host, Rocky Miller, along with the Rattler himself, Bishop Campbell, and our featured host, none other than the swag legend himself. And one night in Mississippi, he threw 6 touchdowns against Willie Totten and Jerry Rice, but they lost. So,
yeah, of course.
Anyway, none other than the swag legend himself, Johnny Cole. Before we get started, how you doing, Coach Cole?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Look, you know, yesterday I must have said champion, Coach Mike 50 times. So I had to put my rings on tonight. You know, a couple of my rings on tonight, you know, and click them. But now I'm going to take them off because I outgrew them. But I just want to let folks know, man, these are hard to come by. And you got to know something. You know what I mean? You got to know something. And he real hitting that, Coach. This is all gold right this one. You know, and this is all sterling silver. So now I need to put my rings on tonight. Just remind me, you know, y'all boys were getting at me a little hard yesterday. So I got
you try to save it from yourself.
Hey, Coach, with no further ado, because we're on the clock, Coach, Luka and LeBron, we got an appointment with them. And so with no further ado, you can go ahead and enter our featured guest today.
Man, Coach, what we bringing on tonight, man, you know, I got all the, you know, things that I think about this guy. Not only that he's just a great coach, I had a chance to actually meet him, sit down, and we shared a lot of personal stuff. And I know he's a good man. You know, he's done things the right way. Unfortunately, he really should be coaching on a much, much higher level, but it ain't where you are. When you're a coach, you don't coach mascots, you coach young men. And with no further ado, I'd like to bring up the head football coach from Alabama A&M. We called it Sham Save. What's up, Coach?
Coach Cole, thank you, man. Thank you guys for having me. Rocky, Bishop, man. Excited to be back on the show, man. Glad to be back. And it's not football season, it's the off season. So, you know, right now, man, you know, we're all 0-0 right now.
Optimism is
they call that your honeymoon, Coach. You're on that honeymoon.
I know, Coach. I tell the coaches all the time. I said, hey, man, we're in that honeymoon phase right now, man. You know, everybody patting us on the back and all excited. But, you know, I like to say, you know, come football season, man, those bullets get to flying and people start disappearing, ducking and dodging, and it's just us, man. And, you know, in that foxhole.
Hey, Coach Shade, before we get started, there's something that's familiar about that color you got on, Coach. Why do you look so comfortable in it, Coach?
You know what? I am. I'm excited to be in it, and you know, I'm one of those guys, man. I'm where my feet are, and I'm at Alabama A&M University, and man, I'm excited to be here. And you know, obviously, it starts at the top, man. Our president, Dr. Williams, man, you know, he's awesome. You know, he supports us. He wants to do well in athletics, not just football. Also, our athletic director, Dr. Bryant, man, I'm super excited to work with him. I just think that he's one of those guys that, you know, Coach Cole, like what you just said. You know, you said something about me. I could say that about Dr. Bryant. I think, you know, he's a guy that could, you know, be an AD at a lot of different places.
Yeah. You know that's my homeboy. We
Oh,
both
yeah.
from Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton.
But,
Yes, sir.
Coach, man, I know you got to be sitting sometime in the office when you started this journey of getting in this coaching football. And like you told me before, you started in the high school level and you kind of turned things around and won a state title. And then you was able to get the job over at Miles and got that thing going, man. And you know, of course, I'm gonna joke with you. You know, we talked about this last year about you going to Alabama A&M. When you started the journey, was Alabama A&M a thought in your head to say, man, I want to be a head coach on the Division I level? Did Alabama A&M, you were Alabama man, Alabama college, you know, national champion?
They're university, coach.
Huh?
Alabama's a university.
Alabama University, I'm sorry, that you would be here as a part of your journey, you know, moving in your career.
Well, Coach, early on when I was a young assistant coach in college, believe it or not, I actually did have some aspirations of being a Division I head football coach, and I can say actually the SWAC is one of the first places that I thought about. And I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine that was up for a SWAC job. Won't say who, won't say where. He was up for a SWAC job. He called me, talked to me about being his defensive coordinator. And this is, over 10 years ago. I mean, long time. And I was pretty excited about it. I told him, I said, well, hey, if you get the job, I want to go. I'm coming. And my thinking at that time was, okay, if I can go and do a good job as a coordinator, at this particular school, that would possibly open up the door for me to become a head coach in the SWAC. So It didn't quite happen that way. Obviously, I didn't get that job or whatever, but that was my plan at that time, was to go that route. And God had a different plan for him, a different route. And it's funny how I still ended up, in a place that I wanted to be.
Yeah. I know we got you on tonight to talk about your recruits, but I want to throw a couple questions. I'm pretty sure the other guys just about you. How much, now that you are a championship coach, to me, you known as a championship, whether you win another one, how much did winning the national championship of Alabama, playing for one of the greatest coaches, how have that helped you move on? Does it when you got to Miles and got to that high school, what was the things that helped you from being at the University of Alabama, winning a national title in your coaching career?
Well, that's a good question, Coach. And one thing that I've shared with people for a long time, as a player and as a coach, I can remember winning the national championship my sophomore year. Then we come back going into my junior year. In the first meeting, Coach Gene Stallings, he's got his ring on, and he points at his ring, and he tells everybody that's there, because we had a lot of new people that weren't there when we won it. And he said, we won the national championship last year, and everybody got one of these rings. And he started talking about the equipment people, the athletic trainers, coaches, players, walk-ons, even wives got pendants. And he said, you know why everybody got one? Because everybody's a part of it. You need everybody to get it done. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, I believe that. I took that with me as a player and just had that philosophy that everybody's a part of it. And then as a coach, I feel the same way. And, I try to, really involve everybody on our coaching staff and that's involved in our support staff with our success. So that's one of the biggest things I took from winning the national championship at Alabama.
Yeah. One last question. I'm going to let these guys get in here too. Have you been at a program that y'all hadn't won before?
Well, we had some lean years in Cincinnati, man, with the Bengals when I first. Okay. That's where I got drafted to, and didn't make the playoffs. In 4 years, did not make the playoffs while I was there. So, I can't say that we didn't have much success, but I feel like the lessons I learned during those times helped me as I moved on as a player to finish out my NFL career. And I feel like it's helped me as a coach, because I'm one of those guys where, I've been on some good teams. I've been on some bad teams. I've been on some mediocre, okay teams. So, I'm always striving to, have a really good ball club. So I take some of those lessons from some of those lean years, and I try to use that stuff to motivate our coaches and our players and let them know, how we need to be doing things.
I got you. Go ahead, guys.
I'll jump in here and ask Coach Shea to call. I got a couple questions, Coach Shea. One, this is your second time being on the show, and I want to thank you for coming on for the second time. I don't think nobody's had such a quick turnaround from going from, coming on by the first time and then coming right back on after you was hired. And so I want to thank you, Coach. You got three showings here, Coach. And I want to thank you. But what I want to ask you, Coach, is this. When we interviewed you before, you hadn't put your coaching staff together. So have you kind of put your entire coaching staff together, or do you still have some play spots open that you need to fill, or where are you at with that?
Well, we pretty much finished up our coaching staff. There's one position that, we're kind of up in the air on right now, but for the most part, we've got both coordinators. My offense coordinator, Dennis Alexander, he was my offense coordinator at Miles College. He's also the offensive line coach. Defense coordinator and assistant head coach is Chris Schelling. He was my defense coordinator at Miles College also. Chris and I actually played against each other in college. He played at Auburn while I was at Alabama. We were rookies together with the Cincinnati Bengals. So I've known him a long time. He does a great job. And we brought over our quarterback coach, Ken Nevins from Miles. Then we brought in three guys that were actually, and Coach Cole knows Ken, man. Ken played for him at Tennessee State as a quarterback. Did a really good job there. But then we brought in three guys on offense that were not on the staff last year at Miles, but at different stages they were at Miles. So one of them, Coach Antonio Carter, our wide receiver coach, he was at FAMU the past 2 years. But he was with us at Miles.
Why do I know that name, Coach? Where else do I know Antonio Carter from?
Antonio Carter, he played wide receiver at University of Alabama. He was
that's where I know it from. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's from Tallahassee, Florida, but been coaching a long time. He actually GA'd for Coach Saban when Coach Saban first got to Alabama. So he's got that, and he actually Dabo Swinney was his position coach at Alabama. Coached him as a wide receiver. So
another championship coach.
Yeah, he's been around some championship guys, man. And also we got Jamal Fobbs. Jamal Fobbs was actually at Miles my first 2 years. He's our running back coach. You know that name. His brother obviously was the head coach at Grambling, and his dad was the head coach at North Carolina A&T. And so excited to have him back on board. Then we've got Coach LaWarn Latson, coaches our tight ends. He actually was with us at Miles my second year. He was at Pine Bluff last year. He was at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Actually coached the receivers at Pine Bluff. Did a really good job, obviously, with that receiving group, recruiting and coaching. So we brought him back on board as our tight ends coach. And that's on the offensive side. Then on defense, I talked about Coach Schelling, but I've also got one of Coach Cole's homeboys on staff, man. He's coaching my defensive line, Coach Marco Coleman, man. One of my former teammates in the NFL. We played together with the Redskins. But Marco's been in coaching for a while, man. He's been an assistant coach for the Raiders. He coached at Georgia Tech twice, also coached at Michigan State. Man, he and we've got a great relationship, and I'm excited that he decided to come on board. And this is his first time coaching at an HBCU, man. He's excited about it, man. He really talks about it every day, man. It's just a good vibe for him. He's enjoying it. And then go ahead. Right.
No, go ahead, Coach. I thought you finished. I'm sorry.
Okay, then I was going to say my linebacker coach is Coach Ronald McKinnon. Coach McKinnon, man, he was at Miles College with me all 3 years. Was at Miles about 10 years total. Played at North Alabama, played in the NFL for 10 years, man, had over 1,000 tackles in those 10 seasons. Man, does a great job with our backers. And then our special teams coordinator, got a guy by the name of Amos Jones, man. And Coach Jones, we go way back. He was a young coach my first year at Alabama. And matter of fact, he's coached a lot of places, man. He's coached on the NFL level for a long time, was with the Cardinals for a while. He was with Pittsburgh, also the Giants, and also Tampa Bay. And he's one of those coaches, man, one of those guys that I was able to he happens to live in the state of Alabama, not too far from Huntsville. And so, man, getting a guy like him that's been a special team coordinator in the NFL is exciting for us. So that's the staff at this time.
Hey, Coach, did you bring one of the guys I noticed on your last staff, Coach Langham? Did he come over with you or?
Well, Coach Langham, right now, he hasn't, he hasn't come over. We'd love to have him come over, but that's that one spot that we still have open. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Coach. Now let me say this: when I listen to the names that you spoke about and you listed as your coaches, not only are those guys been coaches a long time, all those guys could line up and do it too, Coach. They all could.
Man. yeah. Marco played 14 years in the NFL, man. First rounder, played 14, and man was a passionate player. And the good thing is all these guys have taken that passion for playing the game to coaching, and they love it, man. And they're not guys that, hey, man, I don't want to do that job. That job too small, man. They'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. And those type of guys you want on your staff.
Coach, I just want you to highlight two guys on your staff for me. Who will be calling the offensive plays at this point, and who will be calling the defensive signals as well?
So Coach Alexander actually he called it last year at Miles. He was our offensive coordinator last year, and he does a great job of doing that. And you don't see that too often. You don't see a lot of offensive line guys that end up calling the plays, but he does a great job. And but that's starting to become a little bit more prevalent. You look at guys like Chennis Berry. That was his background, O-line, offensive coordinator, and I think Coach Alexander, man, he's in that that type of mode as far as some of those O-line guys that are becoming offensive coordinators. And then on defense, Coach Chris Shelling, he's called it the last 3 years at Miles College. He's done a good job of calling it. Our defenses have really been active and productive, and caused a lot of turnovers and things like that, and been rated pretty high statistically in the country while we were on the Division II level, and just looking to take that to the SWAC.
Go ahead, Campbell, if you have any questions. I know you want to get after him about his recruiting class and
it's fine to get in it. So, Coach, I'm going to do two things. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about your recruiting class, and then I'm going to let these guys ask questions. But then I'm going to come back and talk to you about the Legacy Bowl, okay?
Okay. Man, I had a great time at the Legacy Bowl.
Man, listen,
yeah, we got to talk about that.
You guys don't mess my questions up. I'm going to handle that first. But I got some stuff I want to talk to Coach about, because we're going to set the record straight on a couple of things, Coach.
Okay.
Coach, one of the things in your press conference, you talked about recruiting starts in your backyard.
Right.
And one of the things. So one of the things that I looked at and kind of just looking at what you guys brought in 32 guys, a lot of Alabama flavor. But what I also like, you had 8 guys that came from Miles with you. And we saw what Coach Berry did that brought those guys that were championship guys and brought them over to South Carolina State. Talk to us first about your guys from Miles, some of those guys, why you brought them over, highlight some of those guys, and then talk about your recruiting philosophy, why you went portal and why you also went high school.
Well, first off, the guys that we brought over from Miles, obviously, man, the good thing is, when you're bringing in transfers, it's awesome when you can bring in a guy that you've actually coached and worked with, and them. So first off, those 8 young men, man, they first off, they're true student athletes. Number one, they're gonna handle the business off the field in the classroom and also handling on the field. So that was important. But they also fit some needs that we had. For instance, Travonta Abner, bringing him over in the tight end position, that gives us obviously more depth in that tight end position here. Bringing over an all-conference guy like Abner that can make things happen in the passing game, that helps us. Then you look at the safety position, being able to bring over Jeremiah Hudson-Davis, who he actually broke his hand during the season. If he doesn't break his hand, he leads us in tackles, and he's probably up there for Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. So being able to bring a guy like that over, and you keep going. Keith Green was a true freshman for us last year. Made a lot of great plays for us on that defensive line at DN. Excited about bringing him over. Then we had a couple other young guys, couple guys that were true freshmen that came over. Kamani Merrill gave us some depth on our D line up front as a D tackle. He's actually a Huntsville guy, so he actually ended up coming back home. Then you talk about at linebacker, young linebacker John Robinson was a freshman for us last year. That gave us a lot of depth, played a lot of special teams, things like that. So, really excited about him coming over. Then at wide receiver, Frank Pierre, a big receiver from South Florida that came over with us. He'll be a redshirt junior, big, can run. Just bringing those guys over, it helps us because we know them and we know how they fit what we're going to do offensively and defensively. So that's big for us.
Now, Coach, let's talk about, okay, that's all. So let me ask you this question. Are you looking for these guys to kind of say, hey, this is the Sam Shade system, and kind of also lead the guys that have not been coached under you and lean on those guys to say, hey, you know what? You guys are going to be some of my leaders. I want you guys, because, in the offseason, a lot of that's done by the student athlete and the strength coach to really get ready for going into the fall. So are you looking for those guys to also step up and be leaders?
Well, not really. What those guys have done, though, I know they've had a lot of questions by the players that are here about how we do things, expectations, and all that stuff. For instance, what's the 4-quarter program like? Our morning workouts. What's that going to be like? So, but there's some guys here. There were some guys that were here at Alabama A&M, that we feel like have stepped up and really taken on some leadership roles. Starting with our quarterback, Quad Brown, who's a graduate. We think Quad's got a lot of ability, a lot of arm talent. He's a smart guy, and so he's really jumped out there and been a leader for us. There's some guys on the offensive line that are really trying to step up and be leaders for us, and so that's the exciting part, to have guys that have been here at A&M and that have gone out there and wore that uniform and shed the blood, sweat, and tears. Those are the guys that you really want to step up and lead. Now some of the guys we brought in, they won't hesitate to jump up there and lead also, because they know how it's supposed to be done. So I think we got a good mix as far as the leadership part goes with the guys that were here and some of the new guys we brought in.
Okay, Coach, let's talk about that recruiting class. We talked about the guys from Miles. You, like we talked about, the backyard, it had a lot of Alabama flavor to it. Guys that either played, came back home, as you talked about, or guys, high school kids that recruit. So what is your philosophy first and foremost, now that you're moved up a level, far as portal versus high school, and the high school kids, why did you think they were so valuable to be in this recruiting class?
Well, first off, my philosophy, our philosophy when it comes to recruiting is we want to fill our needs, because in today's college football, you want to go out there and you want to, try to win as soon as you can win, and you want to win as many as you can win, because, unfortunately, you're seeing situations where guys are getting 1 year, 2 years, and, people are pulling the plug. So you want to try to bring transfers in that can come in and play right now, that can help you right now. So we brought in 17 mid-year guys, and we brought all those guys in to compete to help us right now at different positions on offense and defense. And so that's the philosophy about the transfers. But the high school guys, I'm a former high school coach, head coach in this state of Alabama. So I know what type of talent we've got in the state, not just as players, but we got some great coaches, high school coaches in this state that do a great job. some of those guys, hey man, I'd love to have them on my staff. But the people have a lot of value for those guys at the high schools that they work at. But when you're able to bring in high school guys that, you're familiar with them and the coaching styles that they've been under, that helps us also. And not just in Alabama, but also Atlanta's 2 hours away from us. You got Georgia right there. We've got coaches on the staff like Ken Nevins and Coach Alexander, Dennis Alexander from Memphis. And you've got Coach Carter from Tallahassee, Coach Fobbs from that New Orleans area, and Coach Latson from places like Shreveport. So, we try to start in Alabama like we talked about. This is our backyard, this is home. But at the same time, when you've got coaches that can go out and that have connections in other parts of this region of the country, we're going to let those guys go out also and bring in the best talent they can bring in. Even we got Coach Coleman from Daytona, Ohio, man. Maybe he goes up there and finds another LC Cole or somebody like that and, brings him down to Alabama. But, so we're going to let those guys use their connections and resources to bring in players. But we do know that we've got to start here in the state of Alabama.
Well, Coach, like I say, what I really like, and I think the mix, because I think we've seen that you've been around now. The portal's been, 4 years now? I think coaches are starting to understand what the mix should be. Like you say, hey, I'm going to fill needs, but I'm also going to build a foundation with some of these high school guys. And this is why I think it was so valuable what you're hiring. Listen to what you said. I know coaches that are high school coaches around the state. Right. So you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm interested in this guy. Can this guy play? And he's going to give you an honest assessment that he can play, he can build a program and things like that. So I think that's what's such an advantage for you, playing in the state, coaching in the state, now at one of the flagship HBCUs in the state, and that's going to be to your advantage. So, Coach, I'm going to turn over these guys, but I'm going to come back. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Legacy Bowl a little bit.
We got to.
All right.
Doug and Shaq did a great job with that, man. Great job.
Coach, is Coach Cole's frozen?
It look. Hey, I don't think he can sit that still. So maybe.
All right. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Coach. Let's get into the Legacy Bowl, right?
Okay.
But I want to talk about something that I think that you got unfairly characterized when you did your press conference at Alabama A&M. You were very reserved. You were very corporate, and I think you had a strategy that you wanted to show calmness, that you wanted to show what kind of guy you are. And I think, again, we know social media. Oh, Coach, because everybody wants to see the rah-rah dancing and all that foolishness, right? Coach, you know how it goes.
Right.
But the thing that I was most enjoyable, I watched many videos of you getting at those young men. And I saw that last speech that you gave those guys before you went out there on that field and told those guys what this was all about. So, Coach, first of all, talk about that side of you, your actual coaching personality and what that means. And talk about how did you coach the defense, and did Coach TC kind of do the offense, or did you kind of mix it up? And also, and we'll get into some of the players that you say, hey, these guys, if they do what they need to do, could potentially be pros. So let's talk about first the personnel and what you showed down in the Legacy Bowl that people really didn't get to see at the press conference.
Well, I got to start off and say, that Coach Taylor and I, man, I really enjoyed, the weeks leading up to the game. Coach Taylor and I talked a good bit, about strategy and things like that. And it was both of our first times being in the game. And so the first thing we had to do, we had to pick a staff. And so we had to pick 5 guys. I had to pick 5. He had to pick 5. And we had to kind of put that together. And so we actually ended up, with Coach Alexander, our offense coordinator, actually was the offense coordinator and the O-line coach for the game. And then on defense, Coach Quinn, Jackson State's defense coordinator, was actually the defense coordinator for the game. And then Coach Jones actually was the special teams coordinator. So, and all those guys did a great job. The rest of the staff members that were there from both schools did a magnificent job. Matter of fact, to the point where, honestly, Coach Taylor and I didn't have to do a whole lot of coaching. We really didn't, because that coaching staff we put together, all those guys are excellent coaches and do a great job. And you just saw it. You saw it in the meetings. You saw it in the practices. You saw it in the walkthroughs. And so for Coach Taylor and myself, we kind of just floated around. Like, I didn't focus on just the defense. He didn't focus on just the offense. We were kind of all over the place, and really trying to just pour into those young men that were there. I was excited about just getting to know some of those guys and spending some time with some of those players. And it was a tremendous opportunity for myself, my coaching staff. And then you talked about, I guess, before the game, we talked all week with those players about, man, this is an opportunity. And I'm one of those guys, man. I'm always talking about, I think you're talking about before the game, man, about opportunity knocking on that door, man. And the first thing, you got to be ready when opportunity knocks. Like, at some point, it's going to knock. If you're in athletics, if you're in football, an opportunity is going to come up. But the question is, are you going to be ready when the opportunity comes up? So when opportunity knocks, are you going to be ready to open that door and you're going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity? And that's what we talked about with those players all week, man. We felt like the assistant coaches did a great job of pouring into those guys all week, pouring knowledge into them and getting them back used to playing football, because some of those guys hadn't played a game since like beginning of November. So one of the biggest things was getting those guys back into the rhythm of playing football. And I thought the coaching staff did a great job with that all week.
Now, Coach, one of the things, now, I guess you're going to take credit. You and Coach Taylor can take credit because you had not only the offensive MVP, you had the defensive MVP. So I'm going to kind of talk about a couple of guys that you actually coached on your side. You had James Burgess. You had Robert McDaniel, Irv Mulligan. You had Kendall Bowler, Pruitt. Talk about some of those guys that you got the chance to coach directly, and what did you see for us, those guys trying to get to the next level, and what were you able to say, hey, I've been here and I see some of the things that, oh, better yet, also let me help you, some of the things for us technique or even mindset?
Well, I think it started with, Coach Taylor and myself, being guys that have played on the NFL level. I felt like those guys were really just hanging on pretty much every word, when we did address the team, because we were talking about the opportunity that was at hand, and we were talking about the approach and the attention to detail, all those things that they needed to have and show during the week, because there were a lot of all 32 teams were around during the week, and it started off with the HBCU Combine on Monday, so you had all 32 teams there for that. And I got to stop. I'd be remiss, man, if I don't mention, man, Doug Williams and Shaq Harris, man, two guys that I've had a chance to get to know over the years that are just doing great things for HBCU athletics, HBCU football, and that game, the sponsorships in that game were just awesome. You've got so many great sponsors that make that game what it is. And my hat just goes off to everybody involved in it. But just going back to the players, some of those guys, like you mentioned, man, just had great seasons, great college careers, and they could have easily said they weren't going to play in the game. Like they could have gone practice a couple of days, had a couple of good practices, and said, I'm not going to play. But the majority of those guys, they practiced hard all week, had some great performances in practice, and then they took it to the game. The one thing about the game that's tough is we had 5 running backs that I felt like all 5 of them were good running backs, 3 quarterbacks that we felt like were all good quarterbacks. And then you've got 6 wide receivers that are all good wide receivers. And you get in the game, and it's hard to showcase those guys because, it's an all-star game. You want to play everybody. You want to try to, balance out the amount of reps they get as far as touches, balls thrown to them at receiver, handoffs at running back. So there's some guys that had some really good weeks that didn't maybe get an opportunity to do as much in the ball games.
Coach, I want to ask you this, Coach. Last year, the game was marred, in my opinion, by probably the best prospect in HBCU football last year being injured in the game.
Right.
Did that factor into any of the preparation or any of the gameplay that you guys planned out for the game or anything? Did that play a factor, or or was that just addressed as part of football?
Well, actually, there were some things in the rules for the ball game that probably that they didn't use the year before. For instance, there were no quarterback design runs in the game. So, for instance, if it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and inches, you couldn't put the quarterback on the center and run a quarterback sneak. We couldn't run any RPOs, the run pass options where quarterback fakes it to the back and he can either run it or throw it. We couldn't do any of that type of stuff because there was an emphasis put on protecting those quarterbacks and, just making sure that, that we didn't have any design runs for those guys. And I was okay with that. I think that's fine because, in an all-star game, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much time you got with them. And so I felt like that might have helped the defense a little bit. But at the same time, player safety is always a good deal, especially in an all-star game.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you guys finished with the Legacy Bowl a little bit?
I got one other thing, and then I'll let Coach go.
Yeah.
Coach, a lot of these guys, as you know, are more likely going to be low draft picks and, free agent pickups. How much did you talk to these guys about being strong on special teams, running down hard on the kickoffs and, doing your assignments on special teams? Did you guys talk to them about that? Because that's a gateway for a lot of those players to, again, grow into being NFL players. Did you guys emphasize that a lot during the course of the week and kind of letting them understand that while you were a star on this level, there are other things that you might need to do to get to the NFL?
Yes, there was a heavy emphasis put on it from myself and a lot of the other coaches that particularly played in the NFL. Myself, I actually didn't become a full-time starter until my 3rd year in the NFL. So my first 2 years, I had to earn a living and be on that team by playing special teams. I shared that with those players. And there were other coaches on staff. Coach Ronald McKinnon played 10 years in the NFL. He's one of them that was there, our linebacker coach. And, obviously, Coach Taylor, he played in the NFL, and he was able to break that down. So those guys definitely understood that. And then you look at the game, the big receiver from North Carolina Central, big kid that can really run, I thought he stood out on special teams. I thought that he did a great job in coverage, covering punts, getting down there, making tackles, causing fair catches. And that's a big receiver that can run and catch and also jump. And we know he's a good receiver, but now people know he can be a good special teams player. So that's going to help him.
Hey, Coach, last question, Coach, about the Legacy Bowl. Being that you coached on the D2 level and you're now at the Division I level, what do you see at the very top? Because the Legacy Bowl features the very, very best players that HBCUs has to offer. Is there much of a difference between that D2 player and that really good HBCU player?
Well, I don't think there's a big difference between that top Division II player and that top D1 player. I really don't. I think that, it's maybe a situation where you're fortunate, like, for instance, a guy like Jada Byers, the running back from Virginia Union. Obviously I thought he was, just as good as any running back there. And you don't know why he stayed at Virginia Union. Matter of fact, I had a chance to talk to some of those coaches that were there, like Dr. Parker and his running back coach at Virginia Union. We had a chance to talk, and those guys talked about, yes, he had a chance to leave Virginia Union and go other places, but for certain reasons he decided to stay, and so that's how some of those Division II players that are there, for whatever reason, they decided to stay at the college they were at, and instead of going up, because trust me, they all had opportunities to go up to the FCS level at least. And same thing with the Division I players. So there's not a big difference when you start talking about the top guys from Division II.
Yeah. Coach, I had opportunity to called the last game of the year, Alabama A&M's last game of the year. And I don't think is England back, the running back?
No, he was actually at the game. He participated in the HBCU Legacy Bowl and did a great job during the week. Really did.
And you spoke about Cornelius Brown, the quarterback.
Yes, Quad Brown, Cornelius Brown. He's back.
Yeah. How, when you went about recruiting, when you came in, did you evaluate film or did you just hit the ground recruiting? How did that work out for you and your staff? Did you guys had a plan on, you're watching these games, you're watching the defense, let's come together and start talking about our needs before you went out to coach, or you just started recruiting?
No, we started with evaluating the team that was here, that was here at Alabama A&M. That was the first thing, was to evaluate these guys and see what the needs were, see what the strengths were for this team, see what the weaknesses were. And so that's how it started. And then we knew what we needed to try to go out and get as far as in recruiting. That's how we kind of, figured that out.
How many guys did you have coming back on offense and defense?
Well, that's funny you say that, because when I got the job, there were 23 players here at Alabama A&M that were in the transfer portal. And we did lose some of those guys. There were a couple offensive linemen that, should have been back that moved up to FBS. Obviously there was some financial stuff to that. Then we lost a safety on defense, similar situation. So that's the part. So we actually, offensive line wise, it would have been nice to bring those guys back, and then in the secondary. But we're actually bringing back not many starters from last year's team on either side of the ball. We've got some work to do.
Is Kimber coming back?
Say again?
The wide receiver.
You talking about Hambrick, Keenan?
Yeah, Hambrick. I'm sorry. Hambrick,
he played in the Legacy Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in the Legacy Bowl too. So no, we've got some holes to fill. We do it, and you know what, Coach? He had a really good week at the Legacy Bowl. He really did. He's one of those guys I thought, in the game, didn't get a chance to show as much in the game, but he showed a lot during the week, every practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a pretty standout player as well, and I like the Brown kid at quarterback. Is he kind of? You said he's been showing a lot of leadership ability. Does it look like he's going to be walking in first in the fall?
Well, we hadn't gone to spring practice yet, and
Right.
we brought in some guys. We brought in a couple transfers. One from Western Michigan, kid from over in Atlanta, and then we brought a kid in from Birmingham that had been at Wofford. This young man actually played at Fairfield High School and Pleasant Grove High School, and so we've got some competition. That's what we've tried to do. We've tried to bring in and create competition at each and every position. But obviously, if you look at the body of work and the resume, and I tell the players this all the time. I tell them, look, when we go out there for spring ball and we send that first group out there, somebody's got to go out there first. All right. So if we're doing that, obviously Quad's going out there first, because you look at his resume, his body of work, that's just the way it works. But I tell the players also, man, that depth chart, man, it's dynamic, man. It changes. It's not static. It's not set in stone. And they understand that. And I've got a saying that I tell them all the time. I tell them, look, every day you show up, for practice, you show up in the weight room, the classroom, man, there's a sign on the door, and that sign says now hiring. So every day you're trying to get hired for that job. And Coach, I know you understand that one. So that depth chart can change now, but we got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. And normally we're going to put the guy out there that's, basically got the biggest resume and, the guy that's got the most experience.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, speaking of your staff at Miles College, and I see Stanley Connors kind of branched off the Lane College job. as you know, and I know that when you have a good staff, you're gonna lose some. And off that staff, I think you got produced two head coaches underneath your tree. The one that stayed at Miles, as well as Stanley Connors.
Well, so Coach Connor first, man. Coach Connor, awesome coach, been around, been a lot of places, man. Very articulate, great recruiter, great coach. Could probably coach any position on offense or defense and do a great job. He was actually he was going to come to Alabama A&M with me, but he pulled me to the side at one point and he said, "Coach, hey man, this Lane job is open and they're talking to me." And I said, "Well, Coach, if it works out, man, I'm happy for you. If not, let's roll at Alabama A&M." Yeah. But it actually worked out. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Coach Bishop. You remember Stanley Connors, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
For Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
He could run it too, Coach.
Oh yeah. He tremendous player at Jackson State, man. Played in the Canadian League for a long time. Did a good job as the head coach at Benedict. That's the other thing about Coach Connor. He was one of those coaches that I had on my staff that had been in my shoes as a HBCU head coach, and was able to help try to pivot me away from some of the pitfalls and things like that. He, along with obviously Coach George Pugh, who used to be the head coach here at Alabama A&M, that was on my staff at Miles College, and Coach Pugh, he's one that also was a big mentor to me, and really just helped me those 3 years I was at Miles College as far as with some of the things that come up as a HBCU head coach.
Yeah. Now, I didn't see you mention, is he going to be with you at A&M, or he said he's going to come visit?
Well, yeah, he's going to come visit. Coach Pugh, he's getting up there a little bit, man, and making that move. I'll just say he's got a nice spread down in Birmingham, and sometimes I think you get to a point where you say, okay, I'm gonna sit this one out. Yeah.
Can you get about a minute? Just give us Coach Pugh, because I've been trying to get him on the show, about what he was the first of at the University of Alabama, and everybody knows George Pugh. He's been around a long time.
Yeah, he has. He was one of the first African-American players at the University of Alabama. A lot of people say Bear Bryant said he had the best hands he had ever seen, man. He was a tight end at Alabama, and before the likes of Ozzie Newsome. But that's what a lot of people, talk about with Coach Pugh. And he's one of those guys, man, got into coaching, has been a lot of places, man. You name it. He's probably been there, the Texas A&M, the Arkansas, head coach at Alabama A&M, so he was a big resource for me at Miles College.
Yeah. Coach, hearing your staff and, again, watching them play the last game of the year and seeing they had a lot of talent on the team, but you're understanding a lot of them left. And, you played at the big time. You've been a professional athlete, but you kind of have done things, quote unquote, what coaches, and it's fair to call you a career coach, and, I hear all the things and people around you. Seems like you got a good group around you to help you with those pitfalls. Kind of talk about that. The guys around you coming from the pros. And of course, some of the guys are coming straight from professional ranks or jumping into these head jobs. Kind of, what's your thought about that?
Well, I know for myself, I'll give you a story. For instance, I can remember being in pro ball early on and having a particular coach that might not have been as seasoned at that time as he probably needed to be. And then I can remember later on seeing this same coach go on years later to win a Super Bowl as an assistant coach. And I tell people all the time, in coaching, I do believe that you can get better. Like you start at one point and you can take yourself, to a higher point. So the only thing I'll say, when you got someone that probably hasn't coached, I think that they might not, have as much seasoning as, some coaches that have been in it for a long time and, that have, maybe had to work their way up the ranks. For instance, myself, I started out as a middle school coach. I started out coaching middle school ball, did ninth grade, did high school. And the thing I took from middle school was the first thing you learn in coaching, especially if you're a former NFL player, professional athlete, that you have to learn is these guys aren't you. Like what might have came easy for you, it's probably not going to come easy for them. So you really got to do a good job of developing those guys and giving them a foundation, to stand on and to kind of take off from. So that was the first thing. You learn that, and you just learn that some things they don't know. So you got to make sure that you start from the ground up and you build them. And that's what we do. We still do that to this day. We do it right here at Alabama A&M. That's one of the big things for me. I tell my coaches is we got to do a great job of laying the foundation for our players and, making sure that, when things get hard, they've got that foundation that they can lean back on, and that's going to get them through.
Yeah.
Coach Shay, let me ask you a similar question in a different way, Coach.
Right.
Does playing in the NFL give you any advantage as a head coach in Division I HBCU football?
That's a that's a tough one. I think if it does, it's not very much. I think it might be slight. Obviously, I think it depends sometimes on who you are. I think from a recruiting standpoint, if you've got a really big name and a lot of people know you, I think it can help you in recruiting. I think that's one of the things that it'll help you in. As far as just the coaching side of it, I think when you start coaching, I think it's just all about what your experiences are as a coach, what's been poured into you as a coach. I think all that stuff takes over at that point. But I do think that NFL guys, some of those guys with the bigger names, I think it does help them from a recruiting standpoint.
Let me ask a little question, Coach. Playing in the NFL, playing at the University of Alabama, there's something called a cerebral player. There's some guys that you've played with in the NFL. There's some guys you played with in the pros that when I say cerebral, and you were a cerebral player from Alabama to the pros, because you stood out. You stood out not only just as a good player, you stood out as a leader in the locker room.
Coach, he signed with the Redskins. I'm not going to agree with that.
All right, you're an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan?
Cowboy fan. America's team. 5-time Super Bowl champ. Yeah. Go ahead.
So when you look back, again, of guys who's coaching now and who's not coaching, and you kind of hit on it a little bit. How important is that? Now, if you took a guy from the pros that was a cerebral player, that means he knew, about the equipment man. He talked to the head coach. He talked to the general manager. He wanted to know everything. He knew what the front line, what the back end done. To me, that's more of a guy that can come into coaching and then have some understanding of what's going on. But when you're not that cerebral player, but that don't make you good or not, because there's some guys and you've seen them, that they so damn athletic, and they the best athlete on the field, and they know their position, but they don't know nothing else. Had you seen those players, and have you seen players that that are cerebral, meaning they know the game in and out?
I have, Coach. I mean, I think you hit on it. You've got guys like those cerebral players that you talked about that, you know, talk to everybody in the building, the scouts, the GM, the coaches. I know I had some great relationships with some coaches, and even got a chance, like you said, to get to know some of the scouts and GMs and stuff. And you do have some guys that, you know, there's some guys that are about, hey man, I'm just gonna do my job. I know what I've got to do. I'm not worried about what anybody else has to do, and I'm fine with that. Like, as a player, that never bothered me that this cornerback or whoever didn't know what everybody did. Like, I did, but as long as he's out there doing his job, I really didn't care. But you're right though. You know, some guys just, you know, after they're finished playing, they're not looking to get into coaching, you know, because they could care less about, you know, what everybody else was doing.
But Coach Shade, so what Coach Cole is pointing to is something that for you. No, this is serious though, Coach Cole, because I want to point this out. For years, I think athletic, physically dominant, whatever you want to call it, players have been discriminated against in the coaching profession because those guys were assumed to have some type of physical advantage that led to their success, which led them not to get opportunities to actually coach the game that they were dominant in. I think that's a level of discrimination or that I don't think should exist, especially at the HBCU level. Now, I'm not saying a guy's qualified just because he played in the NFL, but I'm just saying, even as a position coach, you can't assume the guy doesn't know the game because he ran a 4.2 and could, you know, and had hands like suction cups.
Let me stop
you know what I mean?
right there. That's exactly what you're saying, is that because he plays in the NFL, that makes him a coach. And I'm trying to tell you, I've had opportunities to coach kids up on the NFL, and it's more to coaching than just playing at the highest level. So, I mean, there's so many other dynamics about and around being a head football coach, Rocky.
I understand that, Coach, at a head coach, but when you take a guy like Coach, let me ask you this, Coach.
Okay.
Why can't a guy like a Sam Shade transition to a position coach shortly after his career is over for the Redskins, for the Cowboys, for the Eagles, and a guy who never played the game before at that level, has a father or grandfather that's part of the coaching profession, he gets the opportunity to get the coaching. They say, Sam, you know, you have to go coach somewhere else because this job is for Mike Jr. You know what I mean? And I know I'm talking about something that may not be relevant in this situation, but I think great NFL players or successful NFL players historically just don't roll into those positions as well as I think they should. I don't know if they want to coach, but it seems like you would be a candidate shortly after your career being a safety that you could have went and been a DB coach at the highest level, or at least at the D1 level.
I think you're right. Now, I will say this though, you know, for a lot of players, and I tell a lot of young guys that I know that are playing in NFL, and I've told them for years, if you think you want to coach, go ahead and start talking about that with coaches and different personnel people, and talk about that opportunity that you want, because that's the best time to do it is right after you finish playing. You know, but if you wait, then that window starts to close, because what happens is the guys that you played for, maybe they're not, in 10 years, they might not be coaching anymore. And so they can't open those doors for you, or some of those personnel people. And so I tell young guys that I know that are playing, and I've got a couple guys that are still playing. I just tell them, look, if you think you want to coach, start right there in the NFL. You know, start there, and then if you don't like it, you can work your way down to college. But I think it's tougher to work your way back up to it.
Yeah. And can I piggyback off this, Sam? And Rocky, you are 100% right. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. But again, for us as blacks, that don't own the team, and like you say, those jobs, and Sam, you probably could attest to this. Yeah, there's some white kids that has came through the family, or family or friend of other people are taking those jobs, and that's true. Up in the NFL, I mean, my college roommate Brett Maxey, you know Coach Maxey.
Yeah, Coach Maxey.
I mean, he was at Atlanta, and we end up meeting up in Atlanta, and he had this white young guy with him that was actually coaching the linebackers and never coached in college. You know what I'm saying? But he was married to somebody's daughter. And you're right. You are absolutely correctly right. But being a cerebral guy, and just like Sam was saying, you got to start letting them know and putting that your contacts out there and things out there now while you still as a player, so you can walk into an analyst job or something like that.
Right. And
Coach, get that experience.
I'll give you an example of a guy who did that. D'Amico Ryans. He's from Beltsville, Alabama. He's younger than me, but he's one of those guys that did it, man. He right after he got done playing, he, stepped right into it and, was like a quality control guy for a minute. And, then he moves up to a linebacker coach and he's a sharp guy. He's that guy you're talking about, Coach. Very cerebral. A lot of people don't know it, man. He was like a 4.0 guy at the University of Alabama. Won like one of the top student athletes in the nation in football. And so, but he's one of those guys that jump right into it, and you see the success that he's having. And I try to tell other guys to try to do the same thing if they think they want to coach.
Just like Eddie Robinson Jr. down at Alabama State, academician, great player, cerebral football player. Deion Sanders was another cerebral player.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So those are the type of guys that I would give some credit to, but attest to Sam, as he said, hey, I started off as a middle school coach, and I've learned some on every level to help him be a successful coach. Now that he's in college, and now, of course, this is a bigger job. And, I have to say, Sam, and we all on, cheering for you, that I just think that you're going to have some success there. I do. I really do.
I believe this, and I'll wrap up by saying this, right? Whether we agree or not, guys who played in the NFL are what I call 1%ers, right? They are 1% guys. Only certain guys will get that opportunity to even play on that level, not to mention have a 8, 9, 10-year career. If you end up doing that at the NFL level, I have to accept there's something special about you, Coach Shade. There's something different about you if you're able to be an NFL player for 5 to 10 years. There's something special about you. And you're not like everybody else if you're able to do that. And so you should get a privilege in the profession of football. I'm not saying you should be jump the line for other things, but as it relates to football, you should be given some credit there. You shouldn't have to be like one of your contemporaries, George Teague, have to go coach high school football in hopes to get a job in coaching when you just leave the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be. I don't understand that.
Well,
Rock, I'll say this, man. You mentioned George Teague, man. Really good friend of mine. I just talked to him a few days ago. That's funny you mentioned.
Is he still in the Dallas area?
He's still in the Dallas area. He's a high school head coach and athletic director. Still doing some stuff for the Cowboys. Actually doing really well. Doing really well.
Well, let me say, here's your answer. 95% of athletic directors in this here college football in America are Caucasian. 72 and 73% of the players are African American. And it's been that. When you look at all the major schools, we don't even have 10% of the head coaches that are African American. Look at the 32 football teams, NFL football teams. And when you not only look at the staffs, you look at the trainers, all the way up to the top, you don't see a lot of African American.
All right, you guys got me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So that's your answer. I think you are right. We should have those opportunities, but we don't. We don't. And
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Can you hear us, Coach?
Can you hear us?
We hear you. We hear you.
Let me text him. Yeah, he's looking.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Coach?
I just texted him. Coach.
Yeah, we can hear him.
Oh, he can't hear us. He must got his on mute.
Let me add him again.
Okay.
Coach, you guys can't hear me. I can't hear you though.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine, Coach.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
We hear you just fine, Coach.
My battery went out on my laptop. Okay, you guys got me now?
Yeah, I got you. You got us?
Yes, I got you guys. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, but that's why Rocky and Mr. Bishop and Sam, that I wanted to create a show to let people hear African American coaches, because we don't have a platform. You know what I mean? Is it getting better? Yes, it's getting better, but it's nowhere near where it should be. And you are, Rocky. I think those guys up there on that level should get those opportunities, but they don't. You know, that it's a covenant. I mean, Coach Shade, you can probably test, because you were there and you looked around the program and you didn't see, or did you see a lot of us in those positions? And
I did not. I can go back to pro ball. When I went to the Bengals, we only had 2 black coaches on the staff. That was the defensive back coach, guy by the name of Ron Meeks, and then we had our running back coach, and that was it. Same thing when I was at the University of Alabama. So I think there's something to what you're saying, Coach Cole, without a doubt, man. I think that the opportunities haven't always been there. I think more opportunities are being created, but slowly.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, Rocky. No, you go ahead and ask your serious question, because
I
wanted to defend something that Rocky tried to take a shot at you, Rocky. But you go ahead and ask your question. I ain't get to my part.
No. I was just simply saying, Coach, your journey into coaching. Did you get any preference as a former NFL player in your journey as a coach?
It actually was more about relationships. For instance, my first college assistant job, the head coach actually, a guy by the name of Pat Sullivan, man, the late, great Heisman Trophy winning Pat Sullivan, recruited me while he was at Auburn. I didn't go to Auburn, but we had a great relationship. And so when he was when he found out I was coaching, he called me up. We spent some time together, and next thing you know, I'm coaching college ball. So that was more I felt about just our relationship, like Coach Cole talks about those relationships, more so than the ex-NFL player situation. But I do think that it helps. It definitely helps. Obviously, even for me going to Miles College, I feel like that helped. Having that NFL background along with the coaching resume, I felt like that might have put me ahead of some other guys that were on that list, possibly as potential coaches for that job.
All right, Coach, I got to defend you. Like I say, you part of my era. I got to defend you. So first of all, let me tell you something about Sam Shea. And Coach, I don't know. Me and my friends had an agency, and Sam Shea had a black agent, Mason Ash. One of my idols. And Rocky, let me tell you something about Mason Ash. He was smart enough to get Sam Shade to go to the Redskins, get a $2.5 million signing bonus, which at Coach, at the level you was at, which was huge, and $10.4 million. So let me tell you something. going to Redskins was a very smart financial move. Now, Coach, I ain't counting your pocket, but I'm pretty sure you're a smart enough man to still got some of them pennies in your pocket. So we're going to put that to rest right there about your level of knowledge. Now, one of the things, too, Coach, is that I hear this, but, Coach, like you just named, yourself, George Tigg, D'Amico Ryan, you played with probably 10 first-rounders on that defense.
No, I didn't play with D'Amico. He was younger
No.
than me.
I'm talking about people that are known as cerebral.
Right.
So I'm talking about the guy that you played with. You probably played with 10 first-rounders almost during that time. But one of the things about it was you were always known as a guy that they said was a coach on the field. So I think a lot of that is already showing when you guys on the field. So while, yes, you might be a great NFL player, that is athletic ability. That has nothing to do with the point that I think Coach Cole is making and Coach Shea that you're making, that, again, you have to have a level of knowledge that while you were a great NFL player, you were always known as a smart player. That has never not been known about Sam Shade. So I think that has to come into play with a lot of guys. And not to say that these guys weren't smart, but I'm talking about players like yourself. And that's what I think a lot of times, too, that we have players that, hey, why didn't that guy coach? Everybody can't coach. And I think that's some of the things that we don't want to fall in HBCUs just because they have a name, right? And they say, hey, he has a name, that means he can coach. Because, Coach, as you well know, Coach Shade, as you well know, being a football player is totally different than you being a head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to, kind of clear that, because I think we get confused. And what I would like to see more of is more, because I'm coaching, I'm a big fan. I'm super excited because, again, I came from the era, again, Pete Richardson, W.C. Gordon, Eddie Robinson, Archie Cool. I mean, J.K., all these guys, you know what I mean? And now I'm seeing you, Eddie Robinson, these young brothers coming up, you know what I mean? You guys are the next generation. You guys are the next generation. And you guys, you look good, you talk good, you're smart, and you also have a relatability that I think is going to do well for the alumni, because you represent Alabama A&M. You are that guy. But also you're going to be able to bring players that are going to represent that university. So I'm super excited because I just don't want a guy, and like I say, and again, I'm not going to say names, but I would rather have a guy like you that understands what the mission than a guy that says, because I got a name, I think I know what the mission is. I think there's a difference.
Gotcha. Hey, now you just mentioned something. You mentioned Pete Richardson, man. I got to say, I had a chance to meet him at the HBCU Legacy Bowl and talk with him. Man, they had a lot of former HBCU greats that were there, man. It was, Robert Brazile, had a chance to spend some time with him, and Anton Bethea, and, I can keep going. Jay Skywalker, man, just a, bunch of guys. That's one of the deals that was pretty cool about that Legacy Bowl. All those former greats that were there for it.
Well, Coach, with that said, how excited were those guys to see you now, again, a player that played at Alabama, but now coming over to the HBCU, as they say, coming home? How excited were those guys saying, hey, we're glad that you're here? How did you feel that love and, that camaraderie?
Well, it's just one of those things. I don't even think those guys look at it like, here's a guy that played at Alabama. Mm-hmm. I think they just look at it like, hey, man, here's a guy that's been, that's been, putting in some work, in HBCU football, and he's here. He's representing us. It's about, to me, it's about, where you are, when you're coaching, more so than exactly where all you came from and all that. But I don't think they look at it that way. I think they're just excited that, I chose to be there. For instance, the HBCU Legacy Bowl, they said it was the first time that they've had, all the coaches from the championship conferences there. So that was a big deal to them, for guys to be there for the game. And so, man, it was just a lot of love, just a lot of love from the former players, the former greats, and all the coaches. And the other thing, you had coaches came that weren't coaching in the game from other HBCUs. Obviously, Coach Joseph, the Grambling staff, and Pine Bluff, and you'd be amazed that Coach Robinson, Eddie Robinson, Bama State, man, all those coaches came, and they came and supported their players that were at the game. We fellowshiped, man, at the hotel. Some of the SIAC guys, Coach Aaron James, Tuskegee, Coach Quinn Gray, Albany State, Coach Brown from Lane, Varon Brown, Lane. All those guys came out and were very supportive of the players and the coaches like myself that were involved, man. It was just a great week for HBCU football.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being coached by Pete Richardson in high school. And the same way he was in the high school, I had the opportunity to work for him as well. And you talking about, a cerebral guy, and a serious guy. It was just as tough playing for him as it was coaching for him. And of course, when he came into the conference at Southern, he kind of ruled things for about 15 straight years. So you talk about great guys, man. But hey, Coach, we don't want to keep you. When the fall gets here, we're gonna keep you.
Gotcha.
Hey, Coach, can I ask Coach one more question? Though?
Oh yeah, Coach.
One last question, Coach. What I asked Coach Eddie Robinson this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this because you played at Alabama. You're hearing a lot of coaches on the higher level saying, "Hey, we don't want to do spring games anymore." And A-Day is a big thing in Alabama, and you're going to have spring. What is when you heard that and you saw these coaches say, "Hey, we're not going to do spring games," or anything like that? What is your thought process about that overall? And do you think that's going to come down to the HBCU level that we're not going to have spring games because that is a big recruiting time for us? And like I say, just to see the players. What is your thought about that?
I don't think that's going to come down to HBCUs or even to FCS because it sounded like it was the guys that went to the playoffs on the FBS level. I think like Texas and different people that might have played 14, 15 games or whatever. I think they're saying that they want to kind of limit some of those reps that those guys, those live reps that some of their players are getting. And, for us on this FCS level, and particularly, being at Alabama A&M, if we have a great season, we'd go to the Celebration Bowl. And for us, that would make 14 games. I just don't see us getting away from the spring game right now, like some of those schools are talking about. And then the other thing, a lot of those guys are losing. They don't have full rosters right now also, and I think that's a part of it.
Well, Coach, I got to ask you one more question because I can't let Campbell outdo me, Coach. Coach, you've been part of some big-time rivalries. Probably when I look at the rivalries you've been part of, Alabama, Auburn, Cincinnati, and we're not going to talk about that. My wife is from Cincinnati, so you hear in the background.
Who they?
Of course, the granddaddy of them all, Dallas Cowboys, and whatever that other team is in DC. You're going into your first year, Coach. If you had a choice today, a SWAC championship or a win in the Magic City Classic, what you gonna take?
Woo!
Well, Rocky, I believe you gotta win the Magic City Classic. On winning the SWAC.
See, I told you this man is smart. You can't coach. You got to win them all in the East, Coach. You drop down, you ain't gonna make it, baby.
You pretty much got to win them all, man. Yeah, you got to win them all.
You're a smart man, Coach.
Man, listen, I told you, man.
You sound like a man want to keep his job, Coach.
Absolutely.
Hey, what are they done, up to 4 in a row, 3 in a row? What are they up to now?
3
in a row, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, tell them you 0-0. Tell them that's the streak that you on. You 0-0.
I did say it's the off season. We're 0-0 right now. 0-0.
Hey, Sam, I tell you, I've been in that game 3 times, boy, and you can feel the sweat coming down on them sidelines, man. Every play, every series is big. So yeah.
Well, like I say, Coach Robinson is making a pretty good living over there at Alabama State.
Yeah.
So I think A&M is past due. That's all I'll say, Coach.
I got you, but I'll tell you right now, man, the one that we're preparing for right now is August 31st in Fayetteville, Arkansas, man. We got those Arkansas Razorbacks. So that's the one we've been talking about around here, and that's the one that we're getting ready for.
When is your spring game, Coach?
Our spring game is Saturday, April 12th.
Okay.
Saturday, April 12th.
We got that down?
Yeah, we got it.
3 p.m., April 12th.
Coach, I might have to roll over there up on you now, man. I'm about to come check you out from Atlanta. I'm about to roll up on you now.
Well, your Rattlers came over last night, man, for some basketball over at the at our arena. It was a pretty good game.
Yeah, you had to bring that up, didn't you? I wasn't going to mention that, but you had to bring it up. That's right.
Yeah, we took the whole team out there to support, man, and pull the Bulldogs through, man.
That's
good, wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
He signed that contract and take an L the next week, boy. Ain't that so?
Hey, smart man.
Did y'all hear what Sam done? He took the whole team over there. That was a team event.
Team activity, Coach. Team activity.
That's right, Coach. That's right.
Voluntary mandatory, huh?
Championship coach.
If it's a team activity, you better be there.
you better. I'm taking names. I'm shaking hands and taking names.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. Hey, Coach Shade. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Coach, I thought this was your third time. This is just your second time, Coach. You turned us down after. No, I'm just messing with you. No, you did a great interview with your people at Alabama A&M and gave us a lot of information, and so that's what I remember watching. And so this is your second time. We had you at the SIAC championship before the SIAC championship game, and you put something on Teddy Keaton. I ain't heard from him since. No, I'm just joking. And
man, I'll tell you what, man. Teddy now that man, Clark Atlanta, they got a lot of good players coming back on that team.
Yeah. They got a quarterback is something else, man.
Well, they end up losing the quarterback. He won't be back.
Wow.
Yeah, he won't be back. Sam Shade, them man, shortened his career, man. He intercepted boy about 14 times in 2 games, running all that 3 cloud and cover 3 and robber, and he didn't know where they were coming from. Hell, he thought they had 13, 14 men on the field. That's Coach Shellings.
That was good players, man.
That Coach Shellings over there doing all that, rotating the coverage in the front and all that. Yeah, that's a good job. Y'all did a good job.
I'll tell Coach Shell you said that.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach. You've been good, man. I appreciate you. You guys got anything?
No, I'm good.
Coach, we can't wait to see you come back, and you come back at the end of the season, you can tell us about that hard-fought loss against FAMU, and we can talk about that.
Coach, we got work to do, man. We got a lot of work to do. So a lot of work, man.
I'll be looking for some more portal work after the spring game and see what y'all do.
And tell my boy Ken Evans, man, to hang in there.
Coach, I sure will, man. I sure will. Guys, I appreciate it, man. Thank
you,
y'all for all y'all do, man, for HBCU athletics, man. And, hey, man, go Bulldogs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, another great interview.
Yeah.
And that was the head coach of Alabama A&M, Coach Sam Shade.
Yeah.
Hey, that's all for me, folks. Y'all got anything?
Man, that's good, man. Shoot, man, we got the one thing. I think I sent it to you guys about February 28th.
We got the 28th.
Y'all didn't get it. I didn't get it to you.
About not shopping, not spending no money.
Hey, man, listen, Coach, we already. You see my background, Coach.
I'm already on board. I ain't gonna spend nothing.
Hey, look,
I just gotta convince Keisha.
I don't need to spend nothing anyway on the 27th. Let alone the 28th.
Let's start early.
Yeah. So whatever we need to do, man. Hey, appreciate everybody, man. And hey, man, we had a good one. We're gonna have a one next week. So looking forward to it. Always thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you guys for the support. As always, man, if you feel yourself at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hold on tight, because ain't nobody bad like you.